Well, I can't. You know what? I just realized something. As I was about to do that intro, I didn't have my audio pod up, so you guys could hear this.
The shortstop, number 37, Wes Styles.
How we gonna make it? This is how we go. How we gonna take it sitting down? Hell no. We're gonna cause a riot. We're gonna rip it up. We're gonna storm the gates. This place is going up.
That right there is my man Colin Cosell, who is joining me here today. That is his call-up that he did for me, something he was doing for fans there for a couple months. We talked to him a few months back, actually. So let's bring Colin into the feed now. Colin, how are you, my man?
Doing well, Wes. How are you, sir?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for that call-up that you did for me. I greatly appreciate that. And you did a lot of those a couple months back, just kind of buying some time for, baseball to start. How many of those do you think you did in total?
Just under 1,200.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. I think I did my final one after getting caught up. I ended it on May 6th, but I didn't complete my final one until I think it was the first week of June.
Wow, man. What was some of your favorites that you got to do?
I got to do a birth announcement. That was really neat. Actually a baby gender announcement as well. But there's a couple for, a few celebrities. It was kind of cool to do. They actually had me do one for the cast of Law and Order SVU. They were having their wrap party virtually, and their showrunner is a Mets fan, saw what I was doing on Twitter, and asked me if I would do some for the crew and some of the cast and crew. And so I did. But yeah, there were some really random ones. I did one for synchronized swimming. There's a young lady who's on a synchronized swimming team, and it ran the gamut. Like they were only limited by their own creativity, and people were very creative.
That is awesome. You're promoting now on deck.com, right? Now, what is that? It's kind of the same thing, or?
Kind of a spinoff. A friend of mine reached out. We're having an industry Zoom. And a buddy of mine reached out and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about monetizing this?" And I said, "Well, of course. I work freelance my entire life. I'm hoping to monetize everything I can. But given the circumstances of a pandemic and an economic crisis, that didn't seem that viable." Well, then we put it into this perspective of, I'm not the only announcer who's out of work. There's a lot of local voices, radio, TV, podcasts, you name it, public address announcers who are out of work. And there's this gross misconception that if you work in radio, TV, or sports, then you must be rich. Yep. That is far from the case. So we kind of figured we would start this platform. Bruce Silverman and I started this platform that allowed other personalities, other people that use their voices to connect with their fans. And it gives fans a nice little respite during these trying times. And then a portion of our commission we take as a website, we give to rescue.org to help fight COVID-19 and other disaster relief. So, we launched it. We brought a bunch of people on board. Whereas like Cameo is just kind of a free for all with celebrities, we are very niche. Like we are focused on local voices or recognizable voices that fans would want to connect with.
That's really cool. Oh, that's good to know. And you're on it, I assume, then, for folks that still want to go ahead and get a call up, right?
Yes, indeed. And the average is about $25. But you can have me, the one of the voices of Citi Field. You can have Jim Thornton, who is the announcer for Wheel of Fortune. He's on there. Yeah, like it's dedicated to voices. It kind of has a sports theme to it because that's where we started with it when we came up with the idea. But we realized that we couldn't just relegate ourselves to sports. So we're truly running the gamut.
That is really cool. Again, now on deck.com. Check that out. Colin Cosell joining me. And I wanted you to come on, not just to talk about all of that, because we talked about that in a previous episode of the Styles Cast, but you are the Mets public address announcer. You have witnessed firsthand everything going on with COVID and sports. So I kind of want to talk about your life and what is going on with you and how you perceive things and are witnessing it as it's happening, because baseball stadiums are empty except for the cardboard cutouts and the staff and the players there. So let's kind of start there. As the public address announcer, you're used to talking to crowds and getting the crowds hyped up during the game. How have you approached it with no one being in the stands now?
I just treat it as if they're there because I know they're listening. I interact. I like my job to be very hands-on and not just some guy in a booth with a bunch of people whose backs are to him, just occasionally tuning into what he's saying. I want it to be very organic and interactive with the fans. So not having them there is obviously very jarring. But I do know that they're on Twitter and they're listening. They let me know they are, and that jingling you sound in the background is Bagel, my puppy, who has been dying to get in the radio. So thank you for giving him a start. I still approach it as if they are there because I know they can hear me through the TV or through the radio. I mean, we have fans in the UK that are telling me you're coming in loud and clear today. So, while it was jarring at first to have an empty stadium, the piped in noise, I know it's, there's no happy medium there. You either love it or you hate it. I personally love it. I think our production crew has done a tremendous job with it. They have situational reactions. I think there's three dozen plus different crowd reactions, including a "Let's Go Mets." It makes it feel very authentic if you close your eyes. They worked hard at it. They've practiced it and they've really mastered it. So I treat it the same way. I will give it the same gusto when it's their first at bat. I'll give it the same gusto if it's coming off of a home run or if they had a great at bat in their last at bat. And I'll take it down a notch if we're getting crushed, 12-0.
Right.
So I just approach it the same way, even though it is jarring, it is different. I just consider myself lucky to be in that booth because I came to grips by the end of March. I came to grips with the fact that there was going to be no baseball. There was going to be no sports in 2020. And I had my mind set on that. So to be there, I just know that I'm lucky. I'm one of maybe 3,000 people in the world that are watching Major League Baseball live in stadiums. So I still treat it with the same respect I would as if the crowd was there.
For you, the first time you walked in and experienced that game, kind of take me back to the first day of you walking in and then seeing nobody there and how the game's played out, because baseball, like any other sports, is reactionary to the crowd in many ways. So what is that like outside of the piped in crowd noise that you have with your production team?
Well, walking in the first time, I've done games where we had minimal attendance. We had a doubleheader that was postponed. One of the games was postponed to the next day, and I guess it completely screwed up everyone's schedules because nobody showed up for the 1 o'clock game. That would be all well and fine, except that there's no one manning the vendors. Security is less. There's the familiar faces you see from within the organization, from ticket to marketing and so on, and those people aren't there. So it's like walking in there. If I'm called in to do a voiceover in January, and the ballpark is completely vacant, it's silent, there's no one there. But alas, there are players out on the field warming up, and you can hear them clear as day. So it was almost kind of spooky at first, and until I finally saw some familiar faces that I work with, and even then, we're working at a fraction of the capacity we'd normally be working with for in-game production. So it's very it took some getting used to, for sure. It will make me love and embrace the return, whenever that is, of fans, and when we're able to work at our full capacity as well. I'm just keeping that in the back of my mind. Take note of what I'm seeing right now and remember how tough it is to embrace, because when we are back to normal, you're going to give it a big old hug.
Yeah, no doubt. I can only imagine how that's going to be. We have a local baseball team here, very minor league, but I just miss going to a game and experiencing, the camaraderie of the crowd itself. Take me through kind of your normal day-to-day then when you arrive at the stadium. I assume there's got to be testing and the social distancing. Kind of walk me through what your day looks like when you show up to do a game.
The first thing is they have us all parking in one lot, and it's by the loading dock. So you're immediately going into the bowels of Citi Field. So when you first get there, you have two passes. I have my normal regular employee badge, and then there are these daily badges that they've made for this particular season that allow you into. There's 3 tiers, and depending on where the players are tier 1, excuse me, Players are tier 1. I'm tier 2 or 3 or something. I forget. It doesn't matter. At any rate, first thing you do when you get there, you're asked a series of questions, and you cannot bypass them at all. They have to ask you the same questions verbatim every single time you show up. And it's basically asking about symptoms, any contact, so on and so forth, things that might be COVID related. The next thing they do is take your temperature, not once, but twice. Then they will scan your badge, go through security as normal. And then it's 1 to 2 people per elevator, depending on which one you get into. I have to go up to the field level through one elevator, then walk all the way to where behind home plate elevator shaft is. So then take that elevator up to the production level on the 5th level, and then go in. Everyone's in masks, obviously. And once the game starts, I open up my window. There's another person in the room, but they're behind me. It's my spotter. And so I take my mask off when I'm making announcements. But we are more than 6 feet apart. We're not even on the same level. And then we just go about it like a normal game, but without any advertising reads, because there's no one to sell to except for the cardboard fans. But I've even made my peace with cardboard fans. I'm like, oh yeah, there they are. And we make jokes. You know, the crowd seems a little flat tonight, or the crowd looks a little bored, or like, well, you got to hand it to them. We're getting crushed, but the fans are still standing by their team. No one has left. It's amazing. So we try to have fun with it, but no matter what, the whole experience is obviously very jarring.
No, absolutely. What would you say are some of the ups and downs this season then, with how you guys are doing the presentation and for you just working it and viewing it?
I mean, for me, it's the easiest job in the world because I'm announcing the national anthem. We have these virtual ceremonial first pitches that I announce, and then I'm basically just announcing batters, and 2 to 3 times a game I'll announce a game break where we'll show highlights from around the league. Otherwise, I'm just sitting there watching baseball. It's very, very scaled back, and I consider myself very fortunate to even be doing this. You know, the fact that I'm getting paid for it, I almost feel bad. So yeah, that's about it. It's just very, very scaled back. You know, there's no other way to put it.
All right. I was looking at your Twitter. I'm going to pull this up here real quick. This video, it says, "What a crazy series. However, the following was one of the craziest, coolest things I've announced." Talk me through that.
So we're, at this point, the Mets had blown through their bullpen, and one of the guys that could have pulled in was like coming off a couple of days rest. It would be like playoff scenario rationale for bringing him in. So they were sitting there, and all of a sudden my spotter says, "Are they putting a Luis Guillorme to pitch? Are they putting a position player in to pitch?" And alas, there he was warming up. And I recognized the situation and realized I had a little bit of time because we're all scrambling to get his normal at-bat music, which is now his coming into pitch music. And so I set up my camera and let it go.
That had to be truly interesting. What would you think? What would you say are some of the best highlights of your career, just in terms of announcing? Doesn't mean this season, any season that you've done with the Mets.
First thing that comes to mind is announcing David Wright's final at bat, which was at the tail end of my first season with the Mets. And that was really, that kind of cemented the job for me. That was kind of a passing of the torch because before me, no one had ever announced David Wright at bat except for one person at Citi Field and Shea Stadium. And that was Alex Anthony. So for me, I took that opportunity. First, I kind of allowed a little bit of his styling because fans were so used to it into the way I announced it, and then made it my own. And I let him know that as well, which he appreciated. We are actually friends. So that was a really awesome moment because we had a packed house. It was like 47,000 people. And he's a legend in New York. I mean, David Wright is a legend in baseball. He was, just a tremendous, tremendous athlete and asset and captain. So that was amazing. Last season, doing the 50th anniversary of the 69 Mets, announcing that whole ceremony was pretty wild and pretty awesome. We did. They filmed an episode of Madam Secretary and used. She threw out a ceremonial first pitch for the show, so I had to announce to the fans that, excuse me, they were doing this and they're going to be on television. And they ended up keeping my voice in it, so that was kind of cool. And then every 9/11 ceremony has been, really touching to be a part of, because it's something that really hits close to home. So, so those are definitely some of the highlights. And this season, just being there. I mean, let's be real. It's still very cool to be there. I love my job no matter what.
That is cool. Real quick on a side note, what episode, do you know what season that was in for Madam Secretary? Because my wife just actually finished that on Netflix. I got to go back. I wasn't watching it with her, but now I got to go back and find it.
It was last season. It was an October episode, and it's I think it's called like Fever Pitch or something like that. It's got a clever baseball related title. But yeah, there it is. And now I keep getting these random checks from SAG-AFTRA for like, streaming services. It'll be like, here's $12. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Just bought me lunch or dinner. I mean, come on.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and then, you know what? The one good thing about this pandemic, gas prices are so low now. So I'm like, I could get half a tank of gas with this.
And gas is usually expensive where you're at anyways, right?
I mean, it's not like as bad as say, like LA or, some of these other places. But I mean, right now I saw it below $2 for the first time in my, I think, adult life. Like, I don't remember gas being below $2, and now it's just hovering between $2 to $2.20. It's awesome.
That is cool. Obviously, with the pandemic, things have slowed down in terms of life as itself. Does it take you long to get to the stadium now, or has that changed has the pandemic changed your way of getting to the stadium at all?
No, getting there is still the same. It takes about the same amount of time because, New York did everything right. And we're systematically, returning to whatever normal is right now. So there are more cars and more commuters out there. It might take, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes less than it did getting there. Getting out of the stadium, however, with zero fans and zero police and all of the fanfare that goes with everyone leaving, getting out, I'll get home in about an hour. It's amazing. It's perfect.
How long after a normal game would you typically stay after, then try to leave?
I don't have the luxury. Like some of the guys, as soon as that final out is caught or struck out or what have you, like they're right out the door. They dart right out the door. They want to beat the fans out. I don't have that luxury because I'm basically announcing up until the production is over. And I give my final totals and tell everyone have a great night and get home safely. And at that point, they're already well on their way. So I'll just kind of stick around and, shoot the breeze with some friends for a little bit. I don't try to rush out of there because there's no point. So,
right.
So that is the one upside of the pandemic, I suppose. Oh, there's my mic with a nice mask on it.
Just found that on your Twitter and wanted to post that because, of course, we're talking about how baseball is right now and you being able to do your job and all of that goes along with it. Anything you want to say to baseball fans themselves out there right now that are watching from home and, I don't know, I won't say kind of disenfranchised, but feel a little bit off by how the presentation is?
We miss you too. We do. The players miss you. In production, we 100% miss you because everything we do is reactionary. And without you there, it's not the same. And just know that we're doing everything we can to make it as normal as possible. And my friend who's a reporter here in New York, Mark Renee, said to me, I don't call it the new normal. I call it the new now because I don't want this to be normal. I just want this to be temporary. I want this to be now. And that's the way it is. And, we're able to present baseball. It is both the least and the most that we can do. And we're trying to make it as seamless as possible and it's like trying to make something smooth and mellifluous and normal in the middle of a wood chip, a wood chipper. So like, it's impossible to do. But we're doing our best. And as soon as we can get you back there, believe me, we will get you in and welcome you, as I mentioned before, with open arms.
Well, looking forward to all that to happen. And again, don't forget about nowondeck.com. You can get Colin to go ahead and do a call up for you like he did for me. It's really cool whether you use it for like I'm doing on a podcast or entering the room just to annoy your wife. I've done this.
Thank God.
I set the Bluetooth. I should have caught it on video, but I set the Bluetooth speaker up on the other side of the living room so that I could broadcast to it, hit the Play-Doh, and she looked up and I could see out of the corner of my eyes. I'm walking around. She's like, really?
That's great. Yeah, people have used them as like alarm clocks and stuff. It's wild.
Check it out again now on deck.com. Colin, thank you so much for the time. Stay on the video feed with me real quick while I wrap things up. And all right, thank you so much, man. And hey, don't forget, tomorrow here on the Styles Cast, we've got Zach Myers of Shinedown talking about the brand new Smith & Myers singles that are dropping tomorrow as well. That's going to happen at 1 Central right here on YouTube and Facebook. Audio to follow shortly at myblownote.com. Thanks again for checking out the Styles Cast. We will see you next time.